having the ability very early on in your life, as quick as you can, to trust in yourself.
We're in a world where not many people really know their own beliefs because
100%.
we're always looking at everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, like if you sat many humans down, I bet you if I said, what are your core values and what are your ethics? A lot of people wouldn't know.
Well, they'd turn around and say what Gary Vee believes. I never learnt anything in geography. I've never used geography.
Do you know what? It's so funny. I had this conversation the other day and I was like, I was taught like the levels of a volcano. Like when have I used that in my life? And we're not even taught finance in schools. Why is that? Because they don't want you to think independently.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I have the pleasure of welcoming Laura Belcher. But before we begin, I'd just like to say a big thank you to Casita Properties, the UK property company when it comes to off-market discrete buy-to-let sales. All their links will be in the description below. Laura, pleasure to have you on my channel.
Thank you for having me, Aaron.
And
it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we did originally arrange this for, I think it was a couple of weeks back. We're finally here now. We're going to get rocking and rolling. Give us an intro to who you are and what you do.
So, yes, very clearly, I am Laura Belcher. I am a business mentor for women, but I specialise in finding clarity and purpose and then helping people monetize it is pretty much what I do.
Cool. Well, let's dive into that a little bit more. Talk around what you're doing now, and then what I want to do is I want to hop back to more your childhood and kind of the journey to begin with to where we'll lead this.
Yeah, no, thank you. So, kind of elaborating a little bit more, I think, is because I started my business journey pretty much 7 years ago. And I was just talking to your colleague and your business partner before we started rolling, but basically I led by how everything around me felt, right? So very, very masculine, all around the masculine energy, around like action and power and the way like, you know, it's all about doing, it's not about feeling, all of those things really, because from a very, very young age, I used to question everything. So I always believed we could be anything. I've learned a lot in the last couple of years. I've learned about privilege. I've learned about what you kind of are born into when you get here and those things, and they are a component in your opportunities too. But it just, as I grew bigger in the business, I grew unhappier. And I realised that I was chasing something extrinsic, you know, and like the real happiness come for me is when I learned that actually if we exchange our time for what we are, basically, you're never then chasing money because money's coming, but you are already what you are. Does that make sense? As opposed to exchanging your time for money, because then we're doing that for the equation of getting freedom and then having that, you know, freedom or fluidity to do whatever you want to do. So as soon as I understood that, it was like this, it's crazy. Like I've never been a spiritual person ever in my life, like a very strict atheist. Ricky Gervais was my man. And then all of a sudden, a couple of years ago, I was like, this is crazy. Like understanding more about the being and understanding, I was talking to your colleague about it. Sorry, I'm so sorry. That's not very kind of me. Tell me your name again.
Faye.
Sorry,
who you want about? Paul?
Yeah, Paul. Sorry, Paul. Sorry, Paul. Paul, the sponsor.
It's Paul.
Yeah, sorry. For everyone's watching, Paul's behind us. But yeah, basically, it was just a massive journey for me. And then all of a sudden, I was literally showing up as myself every day. And really, actually, when I took all of that thought process and that action and that want and need and the focus, the driving force being money out of the equation, money flew and money come to me the easiest it ever has in my life. And then I started to, again, I really believe like truly in like energy, and we are all forces, we do attract what we are. And then I started like connecting to more mentors and more investors and seeing how businesses were like the lack in acceleration when they weren't tapping into that. So that's where the passion came. And do you know what? It isn't really even a passion. It's like, it's not what I do, it's who I am. So that idea of transferring everything I learned in that time and then helping others find theirs is just like, it feels like gold. It just feels like amazing.
I can relate. I think when you change the sort of that money side of it, that money drive more into like you say, purpose, the people element of it, I think that's when one really good opportunity comes, because I think when you aren't driven solely by money, which, let's face it, can be a very selfish road, unless
and it's hard, because we all love money, and it's not a bad thing, but it's about understanding, do you control money or does money control you? And I think that's the turning point.
But like you say, it's the more people you can help. Prime example, the guest that we've had on before. I knew I had a good feeling, because you meet certain people that that are not driven by an agenda of, if I'm giving, what am I getting back?
100%, yeah.
And I think if you can surround yourself with people that are very genuine and humble and have a good purpose, then I think new doors do open, and especially if you're someone that's willing to kind of be open to new opportunities. So I can relate, because that's very much where my journey started from, is actually trying to help people, and what value can I add without it being, a monetary value at the end of it.
Yeah. And like we discussed, it is hard when you're an entrepreneur, you're in the business sector, because there's always a point of that. And, money does equate to freedom, and it does equate to us having more resources to help more. So it's all good stuff, but I think it's always coming from that place, and when we are fully working out of our place of purpose, you also rid that inconsistency of having those moments of doubt or lack or fear, or if the business is declining, or, if it doesn't look the same in terms of your projection or what it is before. I think when we're in our heart space, as opposed to our head, you can ground easier. You can get back into your belief system and really believe in the journey still. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
As opposed to when we're working for something else or for someone else with the sole, purpose of making money, that's really hard to keep going with that.
It's really hard. We spoke about it on the last podcast, and I'd mentioned that, this year alone, I've had some tough times where, I have sat back and I've thought, would it be easier to do something else?
I always think that. Yeah.
Because no one is there to pick you up, and it is very a case of, we spoke about it, me and Paul, even the chat we had on before, is that you're going to hit times where you are going to talk to yourself, and you're going to have a conversation with yourself. You're going to talk about yourself, and then you need to make the decision yourself. So it's weird, because there can be a lot of people around you, but when you are in this world of business and entrepreneurship, there's actually not very many people when you're in that room with yourself. And I think when you overcome those moments, that's when you kind of think, okay, I need to keep at it.
100%. I think I fully agree with that. And I fully agree with how that is a real, almost quite a feminine comment to say, because feminine and masculine energy isn't subscribed to gender. We all need part of it, We really need a balance of it. I truly believe it's where we've gone wrong in business, and we're realigning, and we're moving into this new way of business and this authenticity where people do talk their truth and talk these honest conversations. Because there was a time in business where nobody would give that, vulnerable comment and say, there are times where you think, should I be doing this, or really having those spaces. I think it's why those conversations are the most successful at the minute. And I don't think it's why it's not a coincidence that the highest rate of death for middle-aged men in the UK is suicide, because we're still moving through that that progression of men feeling that they can bring in femininity, and it's a strength. Do you know what I mean?
I'm very interested to get your take on this. I can't remember who we spoke about it with. We had this conversation, is that men in business, I would say there's a higher percentage of men that like to help or learn from other men in business. You do get some men who are quite, I didn't want him to do well, or I don't want to say anything, but more men are willing to ask another man questions on how did you do that? Whereas it seems to be more so in the female market of business, is that, I would say doesn't seem to be as many mentors for other women to, attach themselves to. But also, I think it was a female guest, is that she turned around, I can't remember who it was, turned around and said, sometimes it's quite hard for a female to go and ask another female, because there's this,
But why do you, I think you're absolutely right, you're bang on. So why do you think females are still in a place where that's happening compared to males?
Well, that's the thing. I think it's also for the same reason for men. I think some men who don't ask those questions, I think it's not wanting to show vulnerability. I think that's the biggest thing. No one wants to look at someone else who's doing well, and they could perhaps learn from that person, but you've got to ask the questions. But asking the questions means that you're admitting that they've done quite well and you're not at that place yet. And I think that's like I think it's an inner battle that people have, like an inner insecurity.
Yeah.
That's what I think. That's I don't have the exact answer, but I just
From a woman's perspective, I feel like it's because our version of success in business has always been from men. So even I remember being very, very young thinking, I want to be like a rich man. What an odd thing to think as a young girl. Like, I just think that, but again, like I grew up, I'm 33, but I grew up when there wasn't progressive internet. I grew up when it was just an information platform. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to like, well, what were we in the second web going into the third? There wasn't people talking their experience or creating. So everybody around me, it was just, I remember like Richard Branson, I remember researching him, like lots of people like that. And that is, when we understand systemic oppression, we understand that it was built on patriarchy. So we are all, even successful women, follow the traits of masculine behaviour. So, when we go into a room, we'd never enter a room and like encourage everyone to feel. We'd encourage everyone to think. We wouldn't encourage everyone to be. We'd encourage everyone to do, because it feels like it's more of a valid way to work in business. So, even when we look at like Margaret Thatcher as a leader coming through, she like sacked her female cabinet because she was honouring the patriarchy, which is why the men, the patriarchy loved her. See what I mean? So we've almost coded to you guys. And the reason why women don't come to one another is because, and it's really sad and it has to change, but it's because, and the reason why there is this jealousy between women is because we have been taught that we are rivals because you are our senior. Do you know what I mean? Like our value in life, if you look, and it's crazy, like even we are progressing and we are of course moving forward, but at the same time, like we're not that far out of it. Like only in the it's mid 70s in the UK, do you know that a female still had to get a male guarantor to sign off a mortgage to get finance in the UK? That was your mum. Do you know what I mean? If like that was all of our mums, like. And so you have to understand, it's like I read, I got sent actually an article on startups, and it was done, the study was done in April 2022, so really recent. And it showed that male startups got 7 more times funding than female startups, which is crazy, isn't it? And I think when we hold privilege, like there's privilege everywhere, right? There's elite privilege, there's white privilege, there's like pretty privilege, there's all these things that get us a little bit further because we're just accepted a bit more from history and our internal biases. Like it is, we are still in that period where we're not quite there. It changes the status quo, it does. And I was listening to people read on that article, and that was based with 4 million, that's startups.co.uk, who were founded years and years and years ago, and like 4 million like subscribers, and that was on 200 startups in the UK. They based that on. It was like 500,000 against 4.5 million for men, but they based it on the fact of they looked at investors' patterns, and because the investors were still in that crossover period, if they're going very factual analytics, what did I invest in 20 years ago? What did really, really well? It was never a woman then. So it's just us really having a consciousness to change that. I think that's all it is. It's not about, no one needs like a poor me card or anything like that. It's just about us having conversations like this and having real awareness. Because that I think is what it comes back down to.
I think a lot of women do need to, especially when they're on the sort of cusp of just wanting to get into business, but they feel like it's more male dominated. They do, podcasts like this to hear this. It's a bit of reassurance. But I always find sometimes I think women, when they go into business, it can come across as 2 different types of female business owners. One where if they end up doing really well, they still hold that defensiveness of, well, I'm going to shut everyone down. I'm going to be quite bullish, quite brutal to let men especially know that I've made it. And I think I just think, well, it doesn't really matter about the agenda, because I think on the flip side, when you get a female that has done really well in business but is more open-minded of thinking, well, I'm not even going to worry about that I'm female or male or whatever. I think when there's that line of, well, I'm going to be really bullish and I'm going to let everyone know that I've made it as a female, you still close off many doors, because again, it
100%.
just comes down to, it's not about whether
Well,
you're
you're
male or
working out of
female.
trauma, aren't you? That's what they're working out of in that moment.
To prove a point.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go, okay, I've done pretty well, whether I work with a man or another female, I just want to grow. I want to grow my network. Networking is the biggest thing for any business owner. I mean, it can provide the most lucrative opportunities for you. And yeah, I think there is that insecurity of, it's almost like proving to men that you've done it. But if we're still thinking like that, it's never going to go away, is it? So that's what I mean. Is if we carry on that way, it's never actually going to leave.
Yeah.
It's always going to be there.
But I think it's because we got to have conversations like this. You know, it's because you're absolutely right. But again, it's having the humility of an experience that you don't understand if you've not walked in those shoes. You know, it's like, I don't know what it's like to walk the shoes of a black woman or a black man or a person who is gay. So I would never diminish their reality, you know. And when I actually have really truthful, honest conversations with my friends of people of colour, and I'm like, does that stuff still happen? You know, you can't even get your head around it. It's like, I've read so much, done so much reading in the last 2 years, and you do learn more. And so I think you have to have humility for women that are in that space. I don't think it's right. And I don't think, as you say, I don't think that's going to really evolve what we're doing and business and equality. But I think it's just, for a long, long time, women were really pushed down and they weren't allowed to be financially independent at all. Like, even, you know, like what I'm talking about, like mid-70s, the Bank of England didn't trust a woman. So it's not, that didn't come from their heads. That could have been like my parents. You know, that it's like they're living from their trauma, and then they're bringing you up.
But I think this is where I think there's an agenda behind a lot of this stuff. I think there's an agenda to keep everything going. I use this example. We're going way off track here, but for example, when it comes to, I'm only going to touch on it very briefly, but when it comes to racism and the words that you cannot use as someone that would be classed as racist or using racist words, why are we still allowing songs that publicly and globally anyone can purchase that would have words within those songs that, if they were sung out loud by certain individuals, they'd be classed as a racist? But they're publicly sold. Anyone can buy it of any age. There's an agenda there. If words are meant to be banned, why are they openly and publicly sold to everyone that wants to purchase it? It's so agenda driven, and it's the same for...
It always comes back down to power and money, really, doesn't it?
Of course it does.
Everything around us all the time, you know. And I think that is really hard. I think that's very complex, because I think you're right. I think it really takes people a form of understanding what is right or what is wrong. But again, I think you can just go back to the curriculum, how behind that is. You know, we're not even taught finance in schools. Why is that?
Yeah.
Because they don't want you to think independently. Like, you know, you're never taught in a school that there's an option to pay yourself before you pay the government in taxes, you know, and things like that. So it's like, I always think it's all about questioning the status quo. And like, and I think we are doing it. I think we're moving, definitely evolving.
I think it's about like religion as well. I'm not going to touch on it too much, but I also think we're not taught finance, but we are taught religion. And religion can cause a divide. I think if people want to follow religion, it doesn't necessarily need to be taught. I never learned anything in geography. I've never used geography.
Do you know what? It's so funny. I had this conversation the other day, and I was like, I was taught like the levels of a volcano. Like, when have I ever used that in my life? Like,
the most random stuff.
Yeah.
And the reason I use geography is, if you asked me to get this studio, I wouldn't have a clue.
I'll just use the
But
stat
Paul
now.
knows where he's going.
Well done, Paul. Everyone
I'm going to
needs a
struggle
Paul.
on the 18th of August. God knows where I'm going to be going on the 18th of August. But
I think it's just so far behind. Like, even for me, I find it triggering that like we have a Black History Month, because then that just shows you that like the white is the default. Do you see what I mean?
yeah,
It's like pride as well. It's the same thing.
I think a lot of things are...
It's not progressed enough.
No. And I think that's where it comes down to education. I think if you want to know something and you want to learn about it and you want to better yourself in it, there's everything out there to go and learn about it. And just tying on to finding the right people is that, finding the right people that are doing what you want to do or believe in the same things or have the same drive. We were talking about the event, me and Paul are very, we're sort of like this. So we're very aligned. So I think it's about whatever you're interested in, whatever your beliefs are, that's fine, and attach yourself to those people. But, you have the option to go and do it, and you don't need to rub it in anyone's face. There doesn't have to be an agenda behind it. So I love the way that we've steered this. No,
absolutely.
Now. But
I think it all comes back down to what you touched on earlier, and it's having the ability very early on in your life, as quick as you can, to trust in yourself. Because people, the only reason why people don't find the right people, the only reason why people go off course is because they think that they're going to get something there to become something, or it's, do you see what I mean by that?
Yeah, and
comes back to
we're in a world where not many people really know their own beliefs because
100%.
we're always looking at everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely, and because we're in such a quick, fast pace of society at the moment with the internet, even like how publishing is almost like dead because the news is on the internet much quicker than it's printed. But then the problem with that is, as you say, it's like we're constantly being fed what to think, what to believe. And as you say, like if you sat many humans down, I bet you if I said, what are your core values and what are your ethics? A lot of people wouldn't know.
Well, they'd turn around and say what Gary Vee believes.
Yeah.
They don't, this is the thing, we don't take enough segments out of who we listen to. We see there's so much, problem is marketing's brilliant, but marketing's really damaging because...
Well, it's all based on power and money, again.
It's having... I think, I'm going to sum it up in what I believe. I think if you are content in who you are, you can choose what you consume. And if you know yourself, you can put up barriers to certain things. I think too many people have been mind-boggled into looking, listening and believing that we all need to do Zen in the morning. We all need to listen to Gary, Grant, Dan Penner, all these people, and we need to live their lives. Even single mothers of 5 children need to live the life of Gary Vee and have a wine store. It's not realistic, but people are vulnerable and can be moulded into what society apparently now tells us that we should be. And they're probably not that content, so they can't make their own decisions. That's what I believe. I think it's you have to know yourself in order to put up these barriers.
1,000,000%. You do have to truly know that. But it is, I just think sometimes we have to understand that we're not born into a world where there was nothing before us. So we are born into a curriculum that was already designed. We are born into beliefs that are already there. We're born into a system that we all follow until we all go, what is this system? What is this for? Who do I actually want to believe in? And so I think that's where, I think you're absolutely right. But I think it's work in progress of, it's like it's what I do with a lot of my clients. It's unraveling the beliefs they've got to date and then rewiring the brain to see or think and believe in something different. And this is the thing, because it's like, those really primal years of being very young, we're growing up in a condition that we can't control. So if you're privileged enough to like grow up with safety, to grow up with like money, support and things like that, and good education, then you're probably like going to have quite a good sense of identity and authenticity and connection back to yourself. But if you didn't, or if you were like brought up with constantly somebody telling you that, you got to work in a certain way because of their fears that they could be migrants and they had nothing and they had to survive, they're going to pass their fears on to you. It's like, I could be brought up around, like, honestly, I can't tell you what it's like to like grow up as a woman where like everywhere you go, they're like, oh, like, you think, thought about babies yet? Thought about kids yet? Thought about marriage yet?
Yeah, it's like what generic society thinks you should fall into.
Yeah, it's triggering because then like I can be connected to myself so much, but then you have moments on your own when you get a bit more, you think, how am I doing that? Or for a long time I thought, because I was so career driven, I thought, okay, well, I've kind of boshed that off then. I maybe won't be allowed to have it. It's like, even when you look still through the Daily Mail and stuff, like when you look at females to males, the straight away a female is commented on what she's wearing. Like, they don't do an article on Alan Sugar and go, where's his suit from?
But what about time lengths as well? Like, people say by 20 you should have this, by 30 you should have this.
Awful.
As a female, if you haven't had the baby by 36,
it's horrible.
I mean, don't get me wrong, there is, you know, biologically there is a certain time length that if you want a baby, there's obviously better times to do it. But as a general kind of overview, most people think that, and social media does this very badly, is that where it portrays this perfect, smiling, ripped beach body, Lamborghini in Dubai, you know, meal preps being put on your door, by 26 years old, those who are perhaps influential, they believe that that's what should be, and that is very much not the case. But the whole, I mean, I totally feel you, not obviously from the female perspective, but that whole,
and I think we get it from both positions. You know, I think men get it from a position of you are led and bred to protect and provide, and we're moving out of that as well now. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, but men are thinking, all right, we've got all these independent, how do we sit? How do we balance out on this? Like, do you want us to do this? Do you want us to not? You know, so I think it is hard, and I think we're transitioning, but I think the best thing is these conversations.
Talking about it.
Absolutely. And having humility to listen without agenda and without trying to make sense of something from your experience, and just listen and go, well, maybe I can learn a bit.
Well, do you know what is crazy? I won't say the individual who quoted this, but it's quite funny, is that for a man to be on a yacht with another billionaire,
oh my God, I feel like I know what you're going to tell me here.
He has to either be a multi-millionaire, or he has to be a billionaire himself. For a female to be on a billionaire's yacht, you have to have good Instagram, pretty, and that's it. So there is this stereotypical pressure of a male. Don't talk about your worries. Don't mention it. Put on a brave face. If it's a problem, we don't want to hear about it. Create the solution. I feel like I should turn around at this point and say, well, what colour's your Bugatti?
But you know what? And I think you're absolutely right. But Aaron, do you know what I'm going to say? That the detriment is to a woman at that point of view. Your only value is the way you look.
Yeah.
And that is horrible, because I promise you that is where women lose their identity, because women can get into a place in their late 20s or 30s and think, shit, what? Like, I promise you, it's horrible. Women don't talk about this enough, but they care so much about what they look like or feel. They think my only value is that, you know, because that is what life has taught them. Because if they do look a certain way, they get on the yacht, but if they don't, and their friends do.
Yeah.
It's horrible. Do you know what I mean? But it's equally horrible for you guys that it's this backwards way. There is privilege to both, but there's detriment to both, you know?
Yeah, it's portrayed now that a man has to have money and has to provide very well above and beyond what back in the 60s, 70s, being a lorry driver, coming home to your family, putting a lasagna on the table and all being happy and playing Cluedo. That's gone now.
But
I'm having to come back with that.
I know, but do you know what? But that's the irony of all of this. That's actually what women want. That's actually what they do.
Yeah.
That's what we strip us all back. All we want is to be seen, heard, loved, and understood.
The younger generation are going to suffer.
Yeah. But then, you know what? That Gen X, Gen Z, they're a bit more wise, I think. Some of the way that, like you walk around Shoreditch now and no one's like trying to find the Rolex club. They're trying to find the Apple Watch club.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're all about sustainability. I think the way that they're thinking is different. I think the Black Lives Matter movement and so on, like, they got it. It was the older generations that didn't.
Yeah.
Because they're just so far and tapped in their old belief system, which is where we just have to give compassion. But we are evolving, and these conversations wouldn't have even happened 20 years ago.
Well, Laura, I've absolutely loved this conversation.
Same.
Just before we wrap up, where can people reach out to you?
They can find me on my website at laurabelcher.com or Instagram at Laura_Belcher_.
I'm going to say this in bracket, not Lauren. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Laura, it's been a pleasure. And we'll see you all very soon.
Thank you so much.